A very good evening to all of you. Welcome to the daily news analysis by Tathastu ICS. I am Umang and today I will be taking your DNA session for the date 16th of July and we will be covering the Hindu Delhi edition. Okay. So before moving ahead, this is the QR code for the Telegram channel. You can scan and join this so that you get access to all the PDFs that we are discussing in the session. So good evening all the students, Roshni is there, Mava, Achal, very good evening all of you who have joined. So let's move ahead with the topics that we are covering. The first one is the issue with the criminalizing all adolescent relationships. So this is talking about the POCSO Act. Okay, so the prevention of sexual offences against the children. Okay, so that is the first editorial. We will see what is the writer trying to say in this article, what is the issue. Then second article is talking about more than symbolic. So it is talking about your foods, junk foods which you eat, for example the samosas, the jalebis, right? In these food products we have to, now there have been guidelines so that we have to mention the amount of sugar, salt content that is there in these products, okay, in the food that we are eating on the daily basis, because these definitely affect the health of a person. Okay, then I will come to your CDS part, Sarvagya, don't worry, I'll come to your CDS part. Okay, how is the global shipping trying to decarbonize? So they are talking about the shipping industry, how the ships that are going from one place to another place. Now there is a lot of fuel that is utilized for the ships to move. So how can we decarbonize? How can we reduce the emissions from the shipping industry? Just like what we are doing in from the vehicular industry, we are adopting greener fuels. So what is being done for the shipping industry to decarbonize? So they are talking about alternative fuels, they are talking about green fuels, they are talking about green ammonia. Abhi tak humne green hydrogen padha tha, now there is green ammonia also that is being talked about. So we will see that article, and finally there is one article talking about the language. Okay, we can see there are a lot of instances happening in different parts of the country related to language. For example, in Maharashtra there have been certain instances that Marathi people are saying that you need to speak in Marathi. Okay, तो इस तरीके के instances बहुत सारी जगहों पर आए हैं, बहुत सारे states में आए हैं. So we'll just listen, we'll just learn about India's linguistic secularism. What are the constitutional provisions that talk about the linguistic secularism? Okay, so I will, ma'am, would you cover editorial? Yes, I am covering it. Mahesh, I am covering the editorials which we have discussed. Then yes, okay, Sagar, for daily news analysis, yes, you can refer. The more you learn, the better it is. If you have time to spend, and if you can manage the time, you must and refer the Yojana magazine, Kurukshetra magazine. You will only learn some good points, good schemes, initiatives that are being done by the government. Okay, so that is equally open to you, but you need to revise it. ठीक है, तो करंट अफेयर्स भी बहुत बच्चे पढ़ते हैं, बट द अल्टीमेट थिंग इज पढ़ तो लिया, आज तो क्लास अटेंड कर ली, ठीक है, पीडीएफ भी देख लिया, बट उसके बाद क्या उसको रिवाइज करा? दैट इज इंपॉर्टेंट. ओके, नाउ कमिंग टू द फर्स्ट आर्टिकल, द इशू विद क्रिमिनलाइजिंग ऑल एडोलेसेंट relationships. So there was, this is important from your GS paper 2, okay, GS paper 1 society and GS paper 4 ethics as well, justice, right versus law. Okay, now the Supreme Court's May 2025 judgment in the right to privacy of adolescents reopened the debate on how the POCSO Act criminalizes all adolescent sexual relationships. Now the POCSO Act was there to prevent the sexual offences. Okay, now that came in 2012, but that is a big, it's a blanket act. Okay, so it considers or criminalizes basically all adolescents relationships that are there. So the Supreme Court invoked 142 article to withhold the sentencing of a person who was convicted under the section 6 of POCSO. Okay? Now the case was related to a 14-year-old girl who eloped and married a man. They had a kid also. The girl was 17 when she had the baby. In fact, the High Court acquitted him earlier, citing the socio-economic context or the reasons, but Supreme Court ने reverse कर दिया judgment and they had reversed the acquittal, meaning the person was convicted again but refrained from sentencing him, citing justice in the context. Now what we need to understand from here is over 24% of the POCSO cases involve consensual adolescent relationship, meaning they have the consensus, the two people have the consensus, okay. But under the Act's provision, every such certain case has been considered as abusive, okay. So the judgment is barred from being treated as precedent due to its extraordinary nature. What the writer is trying to say is that we need to reform this act, okay. So we need to have structural reforms and comprehensive sexual education is important for us, okay. Now the POCSO Act sets the age of consent at 18 and criminalizes all sexual activity with the minors even if it is consensual. For example, if there is any activity, sexual activity which happens with a minor, minor is who is below 18, okay, they are considered, they will be criminalized for that if somebody is involved in certain act like that, even if it was by the consent of the person or the minor, okay. So that is what is the POCSO Act. Now the girl's distress was not caused by the relationship, but whatever happened, the girl who was the sufferer or the victim, but after this thing that happened, the police action, the systematic things that happened and the legal process and the stigma that is there in the society, that caused a lot of distress to the women or the girl, okay. So that is one thing that has been highlighted, that the expert panel found the system's response was more traumatic than the act itself. So it was more traumatic for the girl than the act itself, that is being said. The Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act is 2012. Yes, to protect, yes, Rishi Pandey, you are right. It also covers child pornography. It is a very comprehensive act, okay. There are special mechanisms, there are special provisions of the act, you can go through that as well, okay. So there are special courts for that, there are remedial processes, there are counselors who are provided, therapists are provided, everything is taken care under the act provisions. So you can have a deep study of that as well. So the Supreme Court has acknowledged that we have systemic failure and lean towards a right-based approach. So what needs to be done? That is being discussed here, that we should allow judicial discretion in the consensual adolescent cases. Let's see what the judicial decides about that particular case that has happened. Then focus on counseling and rehabilitation, not on the punishment, okay. If somebody has been involved in certain kind of activity like that or an incident, so we should of course try to reform that person. Ultimately we have to bring reform in the person also, okay. Introduce comprehensive sexual education in the schools, which is still lacking in our country, okay. We don't have sexual education at that level, okay, if we compare it with the foreign countries. Regularly review the data and cases to inform the policy improvement, and of course amend the POCSO to distinguish consensual versus exploitive acts among the adolescents. So among the adolescents we need to disintegrate that which was consensual act, which was non-consensual or abusive act, okay. Yes, beta, online, offline, yes, I take both the classes. You can improve your English first by reading, as much as you read and how much you practice. So whatever you are reading, when you are trying to learn a language, it is very important you read in that language. Start thinking in English also, that is also one thing. For example, हम सोचते आज भी अपनी native language में, ठीक है, अभी मैं ये करूँगी, I will do this, I will study the newspaper, first article पढ़ लिया, अब next article पे आना है, अभी ये हिंदी में mind चलता है, okay, or in the native language, but we want to speak in English. So what we do, we try to think in English and then we try to translate it in English. So it becomes difficult for us. So start thinking in English if you want to learn it more. Okay, start speaking yourself, practice more with your family members and friends. Okay, be it a small word or a anything like that, just try to practice it more. Okay, now come to the topic. We'll cover other doubts later on with at the end of the session. Coming to another small article editorial that is talking about the unhealthy food intake. Okay, so legislative measures have been there to curb meaning to reduce or stop, okay, the food unhealthy food intake. Okay, so we'll see what is the key decisions that have been taken. So in response to the rising obesity levels in India, now people are becoming unhealthy. Okay, unhealthy and obese meaning they are having higher weight than their actual BMI. There's a body mass index, BMI. So it compares your weight and your height. It is calculated according to your height. You also should try to calculate your BMI. So you should come into a one particular range. If you are up to certain amount of level, the BMI is higher than that, that considers you as obese. Okay, so you need to take care of the food you are eating, and you need to have a healthy lifestyle as well. So it is your body, your choice. Okay, so be careful of what type of food you are intaking. Okay, now the government has done what? The health ministry has launched a campaign to display the oil, sugar and the trans fat content in the traditional snacks. Traditional snacks meaning the local snacks that we are eating, the samosa, okay, jalebi, okay, to curb the sugar consumption in the schools. Abhi tak we have seen cigarettes. Cigarettes have a packing. Okay, on that pack you see a very terrifying image of a person affected with cancer. So that image causes what? It causes a fear among the person. Okay, if I will smoke, I might have cancer. You get, at least you get that guilt in yourself, है ना? एक बार click करेगा mind में कि this will impact my health. So they are saying that we need to have nutritional content should be mentioned on the packs. Now processed food, packed food जो आता है market में, that already has the nutritional content that is put, okay, which you should read also. Most of the people buy everything, but they don't read the backside of the packet. Okay, so ministries have instructed to display the nutritional content, how much sugar it has, how much oil is that in the samosa, jalebi, laddus. There was a campaign started at AIIMS Nagpur, and there were also CBSE has also directed to establish sugar boards for student awareness, that students in the school should be aware of what kind of snacks they are eating, how it will affect their health. Obesity rates, if we see, has risen in India. Okay, so in India people are suffering from malnutrition. Now when I say malnutrition, we have previously covered malnutrition. It means undernutrition also, and it also means overnutrition also, meaning you are lacking in deficiency or you are having a lot of excess of things, excess of nutrients in the body. Okay, now despite lot of initiatives like front of pack labeling, front of pack FOP labeling for packaged food remains unenforced. Front of pack meaning the packet which is there of the food product, on its front you should have the labeling. Okay, so that has not been reinforced, it is not been in use. Supreme Court in July ordered FSSAI to implement FOP labeling immediately. Now what is this FSSAI? What? Food Safety and Standards Authority of India. Now it is an autonomous body. It was established after an act, the FSS Act 2006, and it comes under the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. What is the duty or what is the work of this FSAI? It is setting the benchmarks, it is having all the guidelines, directions of how the food has to be processed, what should be the nutritional content, what should be the certificates that are given to the food industries. All of these things are handled by this FSSAI. Okay? Then they are saying that visual nudges like on tobacco products can shape public choices but need legal backing. So they are saying that similarly to what happens on tobacco products like the cigarettes and the other tobacco, the gutka that is taken by people, that has visual images. Now these visual images do what? They can shape public choice, that can impact you or me as a person who is going to buy that. Okay, so they will get, okay, no, this is harmful for me. Kabhi na kabhi to feel hoga. Okay, the labeling regulations still lack the finalized upper limits for salt, sugar and fat. There is an optimum limit up to which our body requires the sugar, the salt. Okay, so these upper limits can be mentioned, right? Then global best practices show that high in fat, sugar, salt food taxation and mandatory warnings reduce the unhealthy food consumption. Of course, there can be tax also that can be there on these products which are high on salt, high on sugar. Okay, so they are considered as high in fat, salt and sugar. HFSS meaning on these food products which have higher quantity of these salt, food, fat or sugar, we can have taxes on that. Then ICMR guidelines are also there. So what needs to be done? That they are saying that we need to enforce the front of pack labeling, that is there. Okay, then extend the labeling norms to the local food items also. Local eateries, जो local outlets है वहाँ पर भी we should have to ensure that these labeling should be there. Okay, integrate nutrition education into the school curriculum. It is very important. Now you must have seen the small kids, they go to the school. Now there have been changes in the schooling also. Now they have a proper healthy diet plan also. Weekly plans are there that you should eat this, this is a balanced diet. These initiatives are being taken care by the government and the schools. Taxation and advertising controls on the high fat in foods to discourage the consumption, so that people get discouraged ki no, we should not eat this. This is not good for health. Once in a while chalta hai, but daily. Students specifically, you go out, you study, and then you go out in the evening from the library, and then you have chai, then लगता है कि चलो समोसा भी खा लेते हैं, कुछ भी खा लेते हैं, ठीक है, इस तरीके की चीजें होती हैं. So what you can do, you can try to discourage yourself that no, it's not healthy for me. Okay, it's my body. Ultimately, it will impact. Okay, then multi-sectoral action plan needs to be there. Okay, so all the sectors of the industry need to be there for the collaboration, right? Then coming to the next article, that is talking about the global shipping. I will take the doubts later on only. Okay, I will take the doubts later on. Let's finish this. How is the global shipping trying to decarbonize? Okay, so this is important from your environment section, GS paper 3 and GS paper 2 also, international cooperation and the government initiatives. So the global shipping industry is also targeting for the net zero emissions by 2040, 2050, and India is also positioning itself as a green fuel hub. That India will also become a green fuel hub. We have lot of ports where we are developing the refueling facility, so that the ships that are moving, for example, if a ship is moving through this part of the Arabian Sea, the ports which are located on this region, on the western part of western coast, we have the refueling stations, the bunkering hubs. So India is also has a lot of potential in developing as a bunkering hub, right? The current fuels which we are using for the shipping industry are very low sulfur fuel, that is called VLSFO, diesel, LNG. What are the emerging alternatives that are coming? Of course, green methanol, green ammonia and biofuels. Green hydrogen is not used basically because we have to store it in big tanks. So that becomes a constraint. Okay, methanol powered ships, over 360 vessels are operational or under construction globally. Now when we see the fuel comparison also, green e-methanol is required almost 1950 per ton, and when we see it, when we see VLSFO, that is $560 per ton. So a cost gap, a barrier in the adoption. So cost is also a very important barrier. That is why it takes time to adopt to a alternative fuel, because cost is hefty there. Okay, so price is one issue, but what we can see, the green ammonia. Now green ammonia, in your lower classes you must have studied ammonia production is done by which process? Haber-Bosch process. That is a process by which ammonia is produced. Okay, so when we are producing the hydrogen from a renewable energy source, and that hydrogen is combining with the nitrogen to produce ammonia, that is called green ammonia. Okay, so that is called green ammonia. So we will utilize green ammonia for the shipping industry. That is one thing. Then what is India's strategy? So this is the image of a bunkering hub. Okay, so these are the tanks where the fuels are stored and the ships are coming and they get refueled through these pipes. Okay, this is the image of a bunkering hub. Always look and understand the terms that are mentioned in the newspaper. Okay, that is how you will develop as a person, you will learn. Okay, so bunkering hubs, development of green refueling centers at Tuticorin and Kandala ports, we have developed that. Export focus plan to supply green fuels to Singapore and other countries which are already supplying 25% of the bunkering. We will also export it to other countries, for example Singapore, and Singapore lies at a very important location. There is a lot of trade that is happening from that route. Okay. Then shipbuilding push, 10 billion plan to build 110 green capable ships. Now we also have the Harit Sagar guidelines. Harit Sagar guidelines 2023. Okay. Then we are using green fuels. And we are also using green initiatives in the ships so that we reduce the consumption. We are also utilizing solar panels. Okay, solar energy is being utilized, wind energy is also being utilized at certain ports so that we reduce the emissions from the major ports also that are located in this country. Okay, so for example, boost the domestic shipyards with international tie-ups. Now these countries, Japan, South Korea, Norway, we are also learning from them because they are good in the green technologies or the alternative technologies. So we are also having collaborations with these countries. Okay, so this is about the decarbonizing project, okay, or the decarbonizing of the shipping industry. So, but yes, there is a challenge. Number one is the high cost of the green fuels rather than the conventional fuels that we are using, the coal, the oil that we are using. Okay, safety and infrastructure issues, especially for green ammonia. Now when we are using these fuels, for example green ammonia, we have to be very careful. The person who are dealing with this, they need to be trained. Okay, and this requires a very, it's a very safe environment or infrastructure is required for it, right? Then conservatism in the shipping industries slows adoption, meaning the conservative nature of the industry also, they are also not very actively relying or actively adopting the usage of new fuels or alternatives. वो लग रहा है कि जो use हो रहा है उसी को करते रहो. Okay, then the need for global capital, policy certainty and technology transfer. Global level we need to have collaboration, and then we need to have the technology transfer. For example, I told you Norway is a country that is good in the greener fuels. So we can have the technology transfer from the Norway or Japan or South Korea. We can learn what technology they are using, and that technology should come to India, and then we should utilize it and produce green fuels. Okay. So way forward, scale up the green hydrogen infrastructure, offer subsidies and long-term purchase guarantees to reduce fuel dependence, promote multilateral cooperation, fast track the port infrastructure for bunkering and fuel handling, align with the maritime strategies. The national maritime plans जो है, policies जो है government के, India's national green hydrogen mission, we have to subsume this thing in that mission only. Okay, these are the major terms that you need to be understood. For example, green hydrogen क्या होता है? When the hydrogen is produced by renewable sources, when the electrolysis of water is done with the, how is hydrogen produced? By electrolysis of water, H2O. H2O is broken down into H2 and O2, right? This is hydrogen H2. So when this electrolysis reaction is done with the help of the energy derived from renewable source, solar energy or wind energy, then that hydrogen that is produced is called green hydrogen. Okay. Then we had green methanol, green ammonia, which I told you, drop-in fuels, bunkering. Bunkering is supplying fuel to the ships. So these are the major key terms that have been discussed. Okay. Yes, we can have collaborations with the countries so that we can get the technology transfer with them. Of course, we need to sign MOUs for that. Okay. Then the last topic is talking about the need to protect India's linguistic secularism. So this is important from your GS paper 1, Indian society, diversity, regionalism, and GS paper 2, constitution. Okay. Now India is diverse in religion also, in different cultures also, and in a lot of languages. Okay. But languages, there have been recent instances which I told you in the starting of the lecture, that there have been recent instances in some of the states. For example, language based tensions, example in Maharashtra have been highlighted, and sustained resistance among some of the states that they will not adopt to Hindi or they will not speak Hindi. Okay, from the majorly southern and northeastern states, stresses the need to uphold linguistic secularism as a pillar of India's plural democracy. So as per the census, if we see, we have almost 121 languages and 270 mother tongues in India. And how many languages are there in the 8th schedule? 22. Okay, these are 22, and you can see the percentage of the languages that are spoken majorly by the people. 44% people are talking in Hindi. Okay, I think this is little blurred. Telugu 7%, then we have Marathi 7%, Tamil 6%. So this is the data from the census 2011. Okay. Now article 343 of the constitution says what? It says Hindi in the Devanagari script is the official language of the Union, of the Indian Union. It is the official language, but the states can adopt their own. Then we have article 29, that is also important. It guarantees the minority rights to conserve the language, script and culture. Article 29 says it also covers the linguistic diversity also. Okay, when I say diversity, it means linguistic diversity also. There is no national language in India. ऐसा तो नहीं है that Hindi is the national language. There is no national language in India. Okay, it ensures there is a language neutrality. Everyone is equal. That is what secularism is. Religion wise also we are secular, and language wise also. And it avoids dominance of any one major language. 96% of Indians speak a scheduled language as mother tongue. Scheduled language meaning the 22 languages that are there in the 8th schedule. So 96% people are speaking amongst those 22 languages. Linguistic violence shows the dangers of linguistic chauvinism. Chauvinism is pronounced as chauvinism. Basically, it is considered as unnecessarily, if I say, the dominance that is developed. Okay, so or the feeling of superiority. Okay, that my language is superior, I am superior, that is considered as linguistic chauvinism. If I am trying to showcase that I am superior than anyone else. Okay. Indian secularism includes neutrality towards language, not just religion. Okay. So we have secularism with the religion also, and also in the context of language also, right? India follows an inclusive secular model that prevents religious and linguistic dominance. Linguistic pluralism sustains federalism and national unity, avoiding cultural homogenization. Then there have been instances, Dravidian movements हुए थे पहले, northeast में there have been protests related to language. Political use of language identity can deepen the divides and fragment the society. So they are saying that if we politicize certain instances like these, so these instances will divide the society. Okay, the constitutional framework protects the multilingualism that is there in the country. Okay, so constitution provisions are protecting all languages, I would say, है ना? And it is essential for the national integrity. That is important. Okay. Avoid language imposition. That needs to be one thing. We cannot impose anybody to speak what they should speak. Everybody has the right to speak, talk in whichever language they want. Okay, so we need to avoid the language imposition. We need to promote linguistic harmony and inclusivity. Strengthen mother-based education while supporting multilingual competencies. Mother-based teaching or mother tongue teaching is also important, because when the child is small, he or she can understand better or with clarity in his native language, in the mother tongue, hai na? Because the family is speaking in that language, mother is speaking in that language. But eventually the person or the individual or child has to learn the languages, other languages also. For example, English. Now English has become a language of, it's today's need. You need to study that, you need to learn that, okay, so that you can compete in the world. So it is saying strengthen the mother tongue based education. We need to strengthen that also, because the cognitive development of the child happens better when he understands or speaks in his native language, while supporting multilingual competencies. मतलब ऐसा नहीं है that there should be a support to learn new languages also, okay, and English also. Encourage policy neutrality in official communication and public services. Political parties must refrain from exploiting language identity for electoral. This is what you need to understand, that politicians should not use it as a electoral gimmick, okay, just for their electoral gains. They should not exploit language as an identity, okay. 8th schedule, we all know, it grants the official status to select languages used for recruitment and education. Linguistic secularism, meaning the state must be neutral in the language policy, and it provides equal respect and support to all languages, okay. So this was the crux of the article, that is this. Okay, so these are the major articles that we have discussed from today's session. Yes, anybody who has any question which I have missed? Chauvinism, Rishi, it is like basically a superiority if we show it to someone, okay. So for example, if I try to show language chauvinism, meaning I think that my language is more superior than yours, okay. Rest you can just check, because different meanings are there because of the different in different contexts, right? But in general, it means that only. Anyone else who has any other question? You need to be very informed for what kind of food you are eating. You should have a healthy diet, you should have a balanced diet, okay. You can eat all of these things once in a while, but not on a regular basis, okay. Thank you very much, Mamta, Datraj and all the other students. If still there is any other doubt, just mention in the comment box. I will definitely revert. And for the CDS, the student who was asking related to the CDS exam, the Tathastu Institute of Defense Services is also there. You can follow that channel, okay. We are also having the FCAT series for the upcoming FCAT exam. So if there is any doubt related to that, you can mention there, okay. Thank you very much. Keep learning and keep revising.